Israel continues to fight a multi-front war in the Middle East, with the Islamic regime in Iran growing more aggressive by the day. Over the weekend, the regime's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, issued new threats to both Israel and the United States as the regime prepares for a strike on Israel. Let's take a closer look.
Following the IDF strike on military targets in Iran, including devastation of the regime's missile radars and defense systems, the Islamic Republic of Iran has sworn it will retaliate against the Jewish state as early as this week, despite U.S. and European pleas not to respond. On Saturday, Khamenei threatened both Israel and the United States with a crushing response.
دشمنان چه رژیم صهیونیستی چه ایالات متحده آمریکا در مقابل اونچه که نسبت به ایران و ملت ایران و نسبت به جبهه مقاومت انجام میدن قطعاً پاسخ دندان شکنی رو دریافت خواهند کرد.
His comments were shortly followed by decisions from the Pentagon to deploy additional ballistic missile defense destroyers to the Middle East in coming months, including fighter squadron and tanker aircrafts, as well as U.S. Air Force B-52 long-range strategic bombers. Experts report that it is likely the regime will retaliate against Israel, potentially through Iraq, given the extent of damage caused to the regime's ballistic missile program within Iran. The Ayatollah's threats against the U.S. and Israel come as the regime faces increasing diplomatic pressure, not only over their intended strike on Israel, but also over their execution sprees and gross human rights violations, which have increased significantly during the war with Israel. Germany announced this month they were shuttering the regime's consulates following the execution of a German-Iranian dual national and U.S. resident, Jamshid Sharman, who was executed last week following his kidnapping from a hotel in Dubai while on vacation 4 years ago. In response to the threat of attacks from the Islamic regime on Israel, however, Prime Minister Netanyahu stated Israel is prepared for the event of any escalation.
לישראל יש היום באיראן חופש פעולה גדול מאי פעם. אנחנו יכולים להגיע לכל מקום באיראן על פי הצורך. היעד העליון שהצבתי לצה"ל ולזרועות הביטחון הוא למנוע מאיראן להשיג נשק גרעיני.
The IDF staged a daring commando raid on the Lebanese coast, some 100 kilometers north of the Israeli border, and captured a key Hezbollah operative. More from ILTV's Ariella Lachiani.
The IDF has confirmed the capture of a senior Hezbollah commander during a daring commando raid on the Lebanese coast, more than 100 kilometers north of the Israeli border. The target was identified as a key figure in weaponry capabilities. He was transferred to Israel and is being interrogated by investigators from Army intelligence. The Arabic media identified the subject as Imad Amhaz, a Lebanese naval officer reported to be linked to Hezbollah. The elite IDF Shayat 13 carried out the raid, demonstrating bold operational capability. The Lebanese media reported that they were an amphibious landing team. According to reports from Arabic media, a team of more than 25 Israeli commandos landed on the shores of Batroun and apprehended the Hezbollah operative in a building in the area. Local witnesses said the commandos arrived by boat, quickly raided a building, seized the individual, whisked him to the beach and vanished into the sea on motorboats. The Lebanese government said it suspects the raid was carried out in cooperation with the UNIFIL forces in the area. UNIFIL quickly denied the allegation.
The U.S.-brokered Lebanon-Israel truce efforts have failed to yield a deal, and warfare continues with the IDF ground forces securing the southern border while the Air Force pounds Hezbollah targets. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has more.
Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri accused Prime Minister Netanyahu of rejecting international ceasefire efforts. According to Berri, American efforts to halt fighting between Israel and Hezbollah failed after the U.S. drafted what it called an unrealistic ceasefire proposal due to Israel's insistence on being able to enforce the truce directly. U.S. envoy Hochstein canceled his planned visit to Beirut following the Lebanese rejection. The Lebanese say they fear that with no workable proposal on the table ahead of Tuesday's U.S. presidential election, the conflict could intensify and drag on for months. According to the U.S. draft, Israel would retain the right to conduct defensive strikes in Lebanon for 60 days to address imminent threats. Israel would also oversee the implementation of the ceasefire and UN Security Council Resolution 1701, after which the Lebanese army would deploy to dismantle Hezbollah's military infrastructure in South Lebanon. The U.S. says ceasefire efforts are still ongoing.
We have made good progress on those understandings. We still have more work to do, but that's what's necessary to get us to a diplomatic resolution, including through a ceasefire.
Over the weekend, the Air Force pounded the Beirut suburb of Dakhia after a lull of several days. The Army warned residents to evacuate at least 9 locations in Dakhia and hit Hezbollah weapons manufacturing sites and command centers. The Air Force also pounded the Hezbollah stronghold of Baal Bek, with heavy losses reported. Over the past 24 hours, IDF ground forces carried out several localized operations in South Lebanon, dismantling Hezbollah terror infrastructure, seizing weapons, and eliminating terrorists. The war in Lebanon is ongoing, with no end yet in sight.
There's been heavy incoming Hezbollah rocket and drone fire targeting northern Israel throughout the day, with more than 100 projectiles. The IDF also reported Sunday afternoon that one resident of Nahariya in northern Israel has died from his injuries from a Hezbollah rocket fired last week. About 10 rockets targeted the western Galilee region, and another 10 targeted Haifa Bay this morning. 25 launches were detected entering the Golan Heights. The Air Force successfully intercepted most of the launches, and the rest fell in open areas with no new injuries having been reported, though rockets have continued throughout the day in multiple barrages.
Over the past 24 hours, 130 rockets and 10 drones were fired at Israel. An IDF helicopter downed a drone south of Haifa. 6 of the drones came from Lebanon, 3 from Iraq, and the IDF is still uncertain of the origin of the 10th UAV. The IDF said that Hezbollah are left with about 30% of the drones it had at the start of the war. Most rockets and drones are downed by air defense or fall in open areas, but some are making impact. Over the weekend, in one of the most damaging strikes since the start of the war, 3 rockets struck a home in the Arab-Israeli town of Tira, wounding 19 people. Relatives and friends mourned Israeli farmer Omer Weinstein, who was killed along the northern border by a shell along with 4 Thai farm workers. One friend attending the funeral was former Defense Minister Benny Gantz.
תמיד אזכור את החיוך הענק של עומר, את אהבת הארץ ואת היחסים המיוחדים שהיו לו עם אביו. כמה כאב, אבא גיבור, וכעת גם אבא כאוב, כואב, קובר את בנו האהוב והגיבור.
Well, as diplomatic efforts continue in Lebanon and the Islamic regime continues to threaten Israel. Here to speak with us about both of these issues is Dr. Mordechai Kidar of Bar-Ilan University. Thank you for joining us. As always, pleasure to have you on. I wanted to start by asking you, what is your take on these truce efforts in Lebanon and the claims that Israeli demands to be able to strike if needed are unrealistic? Is this something that Israel, do you think, would be able to compromise on in any situation?
I highly support the truce, but only after Hezbollah is not existing anymore. This is, if you stop the war now, while Hezbollah is still there, the reconstruction of Hezbollah is only a matter of time and not a long one. This is why we have to continue to crush Hezbollah and to crush his credibility in Lebanon. And in my humble view, the only way, in my view, to stop what we see, the drones, dozens of drones every single day, is to announce that Israel will destroy a building in the southern Dakhia, the southern suburb of Beirut, where the Shia live. 1 building for every drone. This is the price which this community will pay if they continue to launch drones against Israel. I think that if Israel did it, after 2-3 days, when they see that Israel is serious, they will stop it because they don't want to destroy this neighborhood, which was populated by Shia, and they still hope to get to it. But unfortunately, Israel only defends itself rather than attacks the others. Of course, Israel attacked the storages and some other targets of Hezbollah, yet since they are targeting our buildings, our people, our civilians, I'm not saying that we should kill the civilians, but we should announce that now, since you launched 20, let's say, drones against us, now we are destroying 20 buildings in such and such street. You better evacuate it before you get killed. This is what Israel should do in order to deter them from continuing to send those drones against Israel.
Now, when it comes to an attack on Israel from Iran, I mean, what are we expecting to see, perhaps even in the coming week? Do you anticipate this will be something very severe or a more reserved attack? And then following up on what you said about deterrence, is even your proposed strategy of perhaps targeting a building in the specific area of Lebanon for every drone, would that even deal with the problem when it comes to the head of the snake in Tehran, of course?
Iran is more or less exposed today because Israel destroyed large parts, if not most, of the parts of the air defense systems in Iran. Today, it is much easier to target more places in Iran where Israel apparently knows what there is in these places, particularly the nuclear military program of the Iranians. Not everything can be destroyed because many components of this program are under mountains, and there is no other way but to send troops to Iran in a way or another and to fight there. I'm not sure that Israel is ready to do it. Maybe it is, I have no idea. But there are enough targets which could be targeted by the Air Force. Israel should take advantage of the fact that the air defense in Iran is weak, if exists altogether, and to do in Iran what Israel is doing in Lebanon.
Absolutely. And also, of course, we have the Houthis over there in Yemen, no shortage of terror proxies of this regime. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but Dr. Kidar, always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, we are in day 394 of the war in Gaza, with heavy clashes reported in Jabalia, resulting in Israeli casualties. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the report.
The IDF named 2 soldiers killed in combat in Jabalia in northern Gaza. The fallen are from the Givati Brigade. They are Staff Sergeant Itai Parizat, 20, from Petach Tikva, and Staff Sergeant Yair Hanania, 22, from Mitzpeh Netofa. A third Givati soldier was severely wounded. IDF troops continue intensified operations in the Gaza Strip. In Jabalia, air and ground forces conducted targeted raids on military installations, killing dozens of Hamas terrorists. In central Gaza, troops uncovered a weapons manufacturing plant underground and in the heart of a civilian area. The 252nd Division forces located and destroyed the factory for the production of weapons in the center of the Gaza Strip. And in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, the IDF eliminated Hamas's national relations head, Izzeddin Kassab. He was one of the last remaining members of the terrorist group's political bureau, still alive inside the Palestinian enclave. And with Israeli cooperation, the final phase of a 2-stage polio vaccination campaign has started in North Gaza. The second phase was postponed in October by U.S. agencies due to intense Israeli bombardments, mass displacement, and a lack of access to the region. And for the first time in weeks, Gaza terrorists managed to fire 2 missiles at Israel from Gaza, setting off red alerts. They fell in open areas without causing damages.
Well, the U.S. presidential race remains too close to call. Shifting support among Jewish and Muslim voters in key battleground states is making turnout crucial. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Just days before the U.S. election, there's still no clear leader. Last week's polls show Donald Trump slightly ahead of Kamala Harris, but with margins too close to call. Analysts tell ILTV that turnout will be decisive. The race reveals deep polarization. Republicans prioritize immigration, while Democrats emphasize protecting democracy and abortion rights. The economy remains the only common factor. For Jewish voters, a new Jewish People Policy Institute survey shows 63% plan to support Harris, marking the lowest Democratic backing from Jewish voters in 40 years. Still, Harris retains the majority, with 24% of Jewish voters supporting Trump. However, pro-Trump voices, like media personality and author Ben Shapiro, assert that a Trump victory would ensure peace with Saudi Arabia and bring stability to the State of Israel.
I think that if President Trump is elected, I think that the war in the Middle East will come to a swift and decisive conclusion, mainly because I believe that President Trump will give Israel what it requires in order to finish off whatever is left of Hamas, in order to solidify the situation on the ground in Gaza, in order to reach some sort of arrangement in southern Lebanon that pushes Hezbollah north of Litani at the very least, and that boxes Iran back in. I also think that President Trump will move with alacrity.
Jewish voters could play a significant role in key battlegrounds like Pennsylvania and Arizona. In Pennsylvania, Jewish adults make up 3% of eligible voters. In 2020, over two-thirds identified as Democrats. In 2016, Trump won the state, and in 2020, it was Biden's. A minor shift in turnout or voting preference could tip results in either state. In Arizona, Jews make up slightly more than 2% of the state's eligible voters. Here, too, Trump took Arizona in 2016 and Biden in 2020. Meanwhile, American Muslims, typically Democratic supporters, are increasingly disenchanted. Some, like Mahmoud Ali, are turning to third-party options.
As a Muslim American, and specifically a Palestinian American, I am utterly disappointed. That's why people like me and many other Muslim Arab Americans will be voting third party, Jill Stein probably, or Green Party, because if our voice isn't being heard by the Democratic or Republican Party after we've been trying since a year now, they don't deserve our vote.
Lastly, a new poll shows Harris leading Trump in Iowa by 3 points, driven largely by women, especially independents and older voters, in contrast to Trump's solid support among men, rural voters, and non-college educated residents. A win for Harris would be surprising, as Iowa has leaned strongly conservative in recent elections.
Well, it's a difficult time in Israel right now when it comes to lending a helping hand to feed Israel's poor. Those who had been donating to support those in need before October 7th now find themselves in a state of need themselves. However, it's more than just donations that can help revive these new poor, but also prayers, and lots of them. We're joined now by celebrity chef Jamie Geller, who's going to tell us about this incredible initiative to pray for the needy. Jamie, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us what inspired you to offer this opportunity for our viewers to join in prayer with Yad Ezra v'Shulamit?
Thank you, Emily, so much for having me. And it's our absolute honor and pleasure to offer this opportunity to the ILTV viewers who have been such amazing friends to Yad Ezra v'Shulamit. Because of you, we are able to send 12,000 food baskets every single week. Every single day, 600 children have a hot meal, a hot lunch, their only hot meal of the day. And our over 90 distribution centers are busy sending hundreds of trucks to the north and to the south to feed families who are under fire. And over 25 trucks go to our soldiers on the front lines with food and drinks and instant meals. And that's all because of you. So this special opportunity is really as a form of a gesture of appreciation and thanks for all that you do for the children of Yad Ezra v'Shulamit and the hungry and needy and soldiers of Israel.
And can you tell us why is it so meaningful to take the children to Kever Rachel? Will you be there praying for everyone as well?
Of course. So I'm going together with the children to the gravesite of Rachel, our matriarch. We did this for you a few months back when we went to the Western Wall. We collected all of your prayer requests and the children and I went to pray for you. We always ask you not only to reach deep down into your pockets and to help us, but to pray for us because we know how powerful prayers are. And so this is our way of showing our appreciation. First of all, the prayers of children, pure, sweet children, we know are answered directly. And second second of all, we are going this time to the gravesite of Rachel, our matriarch, who, as the biblical story says, stepped aside so that her older sister Leah could marry Jacob first, so as not to embarrass her. And for this and many other reasons, she is a righteous woman. So when we go to pray at the gravesite of a righteous person, on the yahrzeit, which is the anniversary of their death, together with the prayers of children, we are sure to have our prayers answered. And we'd love you to please go ahead and submit whatever your prayers are, big and small, so that we can pray together for you and thank you for all that you do for us.
And finally, how can people send their prayer requests for this special visit?
It is so simple. All you have to do is scan the QR code. I just want to give you one note. Please, we apologize in advance for the fact that there is a $6 charge for each prayer. We have never done anything like this before in all the years that we've been collecting prayer requests. But since October 7th, every time we put out a prayer request, we receive so many, an abundance of virulent anti-Semitic messages and spam, and it's horrible. So we must be able to sift through and get the most authentic, real prayers to the children on that day. And so this is, we hope, just a few dollars. It's a barrier for entry to ensure that we receive your prayers and authentic and real prayers, and not the horrible anti-Semitic messages that we've received.
A beautiful initiative that can also help assist those in need. Jamie Geller, thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to invite you to the next ILTV community webinar. This is a chance for our paid subscribers to connect directly with our executive editor, Mayan Hoffman, and dive into the questions you care most about regarding Israel. The webinar will take place this week on November 5th and is exclusively for our app subscribers. If you're already part of the ILTV family, watch your inbox for a registration link. If you're not a subscriber yet, no worries, there's still time to join us. And today, universities and colleges across the country have begun the academic year, the second year in a row amid the ongoing Gaza war. ILTV's Arya Lalachiani is at Tel Aviv University with more.
Yes, thank you, Emily. So today, November 3rd, marks the beginning of the academic year for universities across the country. And this is now the second year in a row where thousands of students are beginning their school year with the war ongoing. We have seen thousands of students serve in the reserves duty. Last year, 1 in 5 students were serving in the reserves, which amounted to around 70,000 students. And I'm here now at Tel Aviv University, where already 1,600 out of 30,000 students are serving in the reserves. However, universities are ensuring that they are doing everything they can to support all students financially, emotionally, and also academically to ensure they are completing the academic year successfully.
On one hand, we're extremely excited. There's a full festival here. Well, we want to start studying. On the other hand, it's extremely hard because we are still in the war. There are a lot of reserve soldiers that are trying to study and balance between all the things.
And it's super important to contribute to the army. I'm so proud of what I did. I wouldn't change it, but I know that it has some personal costs. Like, I'm looking on the first year and at my grades, and now I barely passed all my courses. I hope I will be able to pass this year as well. And yeah, we're trying our best.
Head of the university and the professors here, their sons and daughters or their grandchildren are also reserve soldiers in some way or another. We're all in the same boat, so they're truly helping us.
Sagot Winery, where passion meets tradition. Nestled in the heart of Binyamin, our vineyards yield exquisite wines crafted with generations of expertise.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected tonight around the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 15 degrees Celsius or 58 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow, more cloudy skies and light drops are expected in the north, as temperatures should be reaching highs of about 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you for watching.